howdy y'all. Swan, Marion, the bookworm cowboy. About to finish the final chapters of this book. The Kane Chronicles, The Serpent's Shadow by Rick Riordan. Let's finish this book. I'm almost done with it, believe it or not. I just got 3 chapters left. Chapter 20. I take a chair. Like I said, I'm not good with incantations. Doing one right requires unbroken concentration, correct pronunciation, and perfect timing. Otherwise, you're liable to destroy yourself and everything within 10 feet or turn yourself into some sort of form of marsupial. Trying to cast a spell with someone else, that's doubly hard. Sure, Sadie and I studied the words, but it's not like we could actually do the execution in advance. With a spell like that, you only get 1 shot. As we began, I was aware of Bast and Bess battling the serpent, and our other allies locked in combat at different levels of the Duat. The temperature kept dropping. Crevices widened in the ground. Red lightning spread across the sky like cracks in a black dome. It was hard to keep my teeth from chattering. I concentrated on the stone figurine of Apophis. As we chanted, the statue began to smoke. I tried not to think about the last time I heard this incantation. Michael Desjardins had died casting it, and he had faced only a partial manifestation of the serpent, not Apophis at his full power, after triumphantly devouring Ra. Focus, Horace told me. Easy for him to say. The noise, cold. Cold and explosions around us made it almost impossible. Like trying to count backward from 100 while people scream random numbers in your ears. Bass was thrown over our heads and landed against a stone block. Bess roared in anger. He slammed his club into the snake's neck so hard Apophis' eyes rattled in his head. Apophis snapped at Bess, who grabbed one fang and hung on for dear life as the serpent raised his head and shook his mouth, trying to dislodge the dwarf god. Sadie and I continued to chant. The serpent's shadows steamed as the figurine heated up. Gold and blue light swirled around us as Isis and Horace did their best to shield us. Sweat stung from my eyes. Despite the frosty air, I began to feel feverish. When we came to the most important part of the spell, the naming of the enemy, I finally began to sense the true nature of the serpent's shadow. Funny how that works. Sometimes you don't really understand something until you destroy it. The shade was more than just a copy or a reflection, more than a backup disc for the soul. A person's shadow stood for his legacy, his impact on the world. Some people can cast hardly any shadow at all. Some cast long, deep shadows that endured for centuries. I thought about what the ghost Setney has said, how he and I had each grown up in the shadow of a famous father. I realize now that he hadn't just meant it as a figure of a speech. My dad cast a powerful shadow that still affected me and the whole world. If a person cast no shadow at all, he couldn't be alive. His existence became meaningless. Executing Apophis by destroying his shadow would cut his connection to the mortal world completely. He'd never be able to rise again. I finally understood why he'd been so anxious to burn Setney's scrolls and why he was afraid of this spell. He reached the last line. Apophis dislodged Bess from his fang, and the dwarf sailed into the side of the great pyramid. The serpent turned toward us as we spoke the final words. We exile you beyond the void. You are no more. No! Apophis roared. The statue flared, dissolving in our hands. The shadow disappeared in a puff of vapor, and an explosion wave of darkness knocked us all off our feet. The serpent's legacy on the earth shattered. The wars, murders, turmoil, and anarchy Apophis had caused since ancient times finally lost power, no longer casting their shadow across our future. Souls of the dead were expelled from the blast. Thousands of ghosts that had been trapped and crushed within the shadow of chaos. A voice whispered in my mind, "Carter." And I sobbed with relief. I couldn't see her, but I knew that our mother was free. Her spirit was returning to its place in the Duat. "Short-sighted mortals!" Apophis writhed and began to shrink. "You haven't just killed me, you've exiled the gods!" The Duat collapsed, layer upon layer, until the plains of Giza were one reality again. Our magicians and friends stood in a daze around us. The gods, however, were nowhere to be seen. The serpent hissed, his scales falling away in smoking pieces. "Ma'at and chaos are linked, you fools! You cannot push me away without pushing away the gods. As for Ra, he shall die within me, slowly digesting." Digested. He was cut short, literally, when his head exploded. Yes, it was just as gross as it sounds. Flaming bits of reptile flew everywhere. A ball of fire rolled up from the serpent's neck. The body of Apophis crumbled into sand and steaming goo, and Zia Rashid stepped out of the wreckage. Her dress was in tatters. Her golden staff had cracked like a wishbone, but she was alive. I ran toward her. She stumbled and collapsed against me, completely exhausted. And someone else rose from the smoking ruins of Apophis. Ra shimmered like a mirage, towering over us as a muscular old man with golden skin, kingly robes, and a pharaoh's crown. He stepped forward and daylight returned to the sky. The temperature warmed. The cracks in the ground sealed themselves. The sun god smiled down at me. "Well done, Carter and Sadie. Now I must withdraw as the other gods have done, but I owe you my life." "Withdraw?" My voice didn't sound like mine. It was more deeper, gravelly. But it wasn't Horus's voice either. The war god seemed to be gone from my mind. "You mean forever?" Ra chuckled. "When you're as old as I am, you learn to be careful with that word forever. I thought I was leaving forever the first time I abdicated. For a while, at least, I must retreat into the sky. My old enemy Apophis was not wrong. When chaos is pushed away, the gods of order, Ma'at, must also distance themselves. Such is the balance of the universe. Then you should take these." Again, I offered him the crooked flail. Ra shook his head. "Keep them for me. You are the rightful pharaoh. And take care of that my favored one," he nodded at Zia. "She will recover, but she will need support." Light blazed around the sun god. When it faded, he was gone. 2,000 weary magicians stood around a smoking serpent-shaped mark in the desert as the sun rose over the pyramids of Giza. Sadie rested her hand on my arm. "Brother dear?" "Yeah, that was a bit too close. For once I had no argument with my sister." Now let's change the music. Let's try this. Hold on a moment. It's the damn phone. Hurry up. Let's try this. The rest of the day was a blur. I remember helping Zia to the healing rooms of the first gnome. My own broken hand took only 5 minutes to fix. But I stayed with Zia until Jazz told me I needed to go. She and the other healers had dozens of wounded magicians to treat, including the Russian kid Leonid, who amazingly was expected to pull through. And while Jazz thought I was very sweet, I was very much in the way. I wandered through the main cavern and was shocked to see it full of people. Portals around the world had started working again. Magicians were flooding in to help with cleanup and pledged their support to those chief lectors. Chief lector. Everybody loves to show up at the party once all the hard work is done. I tried not to feel bitter about it. I knew that many of the other gnomes had been fighting their own battles. Profus had done his best to divide and conquer us. Still, that's a bad taste in my mouth. Many people stared in awe at Ross, Cook, and Flail, which still hung from my belt. A few people congratulated me and called me a hero. I kept walking. As I passed the staff vendor's cart, someone said, "Psst." I glanced toward the nearest alley. The ghost Sitney was leaning against the wall. I was so startled I thought I must be hallucinating. He couldn't possibly be here, still in his horrible jacket and jewelry and jeans, his Elvis hair perfectly combed, the book of Toth tucked under his arms. "You did good, pal," he called. Not the way I would have handled it, but not bad. Finally, handled it, but not bad. Finally unfroze. Pass! Sitting just grinned. "Yeah, we're done playing that game, but don't worry, pal. I'll see you around." He disappeared in a puff of smoke. I'm not sure how long I stood there before Sadie found me. "All right?" She asked. I told her what I'd seen. She winced, but didn't look very surprised. "I suppose we'll have to deal with that kid sooner or later. But for now, you'd best come with me. Amos has called a general assembly in the Hall of Ages." She slipped her arm through mine and tried to smile, brother dear. "I know it's hard, but you're a role model now, as horrifying as I find that." I did my best, though. It was difficult to put Setney out of my mind. We passed several of our friends helping with the restoration. Listen and a squad of earth elementalists were reinforcing walls and ceilings, trying to make sure the caverns didn't collapse on us. Julian was sitting on the steps of the scrying house, chatting up a few girls from the Scandinavian mom. "Yeah, you know," he was telling them. "My prophet saw me coming with my big combat avatar, and he pretty much knew it was over." Sadie rolled her eyes and pulled me along. Little Sylvie and the other Inkle biters ran up to us, grinning and breathless. They'd helped themselves to some charms from one of the unmanned shopping kiosks, so it looked like they'd just come back from an Egyptian Mardi Gras. I killed a snake, Shelby told us. A big snake. Really, I asked. All by yourself? Yes, Shelby assured me. Kill, kill, kill. She stomped her feet and sparks flew from her shoes. Then she ran off chasing her friends. That girl has a future, Sadie said. Reminds me of myself when I was young. I shuddered. What a disturbing thought. Gongs began ringing throughout the tunnels, summoning everyone to the Hall of Ages. By the time we got there, the hall was absolutely jammed with magicians. Some in robes, some in modern clothes, some in pajamas, like they'd teleported straight from bed. On either side of the carpet, holographic curtains of light shimmered between the columns just as they had before. Felix ran up to us, all smiles with a herd of penguins behind him. Herd? Flock? Gaggle? Oh, whatever. Check it out, he said happily. I learned this one during the battle. He spoke a command word. At first I thought it was shish kebab, but later he told me it was say kebab, make cold. Hieroglyphs appeared on the floor in frosty white. These are the hieroglyphs. The chill spread under the 20-foot section of the floor was coated in thick white ice. The penguins waddled across it, flapping their wings. One unfortunate magician stepped back and slipped so badly his staff went flying. Yeah, Felix pumped his fist. Yeah, I found my path. I'm supposed to follow the god of ice. I scratched my head. There's a god of ice? Egypt is a desert. Who's the ice god? I have no idea. Felix beamed. He stood across the ice and went running off with his penguins. We made our way down the hall. Magicians were trading stories, mingling, checking in with old friends. Hieroglyphs floated through the air, brighter and thicker than I'd ever seen, like a rainbow alphabet soup. Finally, the crowd noticed Sadie and me. A hush spread through the room. All eyes turned toward us. The magicians parted, clearing the way to the throne. Most of the magicians smiled as we walked past. Few whispered thanks and congratulations. Even the former rebel magicians seemed genuinely pleased to see us. They didn't catch a few angry looks, no matter that we defeated the Prophets. Some of our fellow magicians would always doubt us. Some would never stop hating us. The Kane family still needed to watch our backs. Sadie scanned the crowd anxiously. I realized she was looking for Walt. I'd been so focused on Thea, I hadn't thought about how worried Sadie must be. Walt had disappeared after the battle, along with the rest of the gods. He didn't seem to be here now. I'm sure he's fine, I told her. Shh. Sadie smiled at me, but her eyes said, if you embarrass me in front of all these people, I'll strangle you. Amos waited for us at the steps of the throne. He changed into a crimson suit that went surprisingly well with his leopard skin cape. His hair was braided with garnets, and his glasses were tinted red. The color of chaos? I got the feeling he was playing up his connection to Set, which all the other magicians had definitely heard about by now. For the first time in history, our chief lector had the god of evil, the strength and chaos on speed dial. That might make people trust him less, but magicians were like the gods. They respected strength. I doubted Amos would have much trouble enforcing his rule anymore. He smiled as we approached. Carter and Sadie, on behalf of the House of Life, I thank you. You've restored my art. Our purpose has been execrated, and Ra has once again risen to the heavens, but this time in triumph. Well done. The hall erupted in cheer and applause. Dozens of magicians raised their staff and sent up miniature firework displays. Amos embraced us. Then he stepped aside and gestured me toward the throne. I hope that horse might give me some words of encouragement, but I couldn't feel his presence at all. I tried to control my breathing. That chair had been empty for thousands of years. How could I be sure it would even hold my weight? If the throne of the pharaohs broke under my royal blood, that would be a great omen. Sadie nudged me. Go on then, don't be stupid. I climbed the steps and eased myself onto the throne. The old chair creaked, but it held me. I gazed out over the crowd of magicians. Horus wasn't there for me, but somehow that was okay. I glanced over at the shimmering curtains of light, the new age, glowing purple, and I had a feeling it was going to be an age of good things after all. My muscles began to relax. I felt like I'd stepped out of the war god's shadow, just as I'd stepped out of my father's. I found the words. I accept the throne. I held up the crook and flail. Ra has given me authority to lead the gods and magicians in times of crisis, and I'll do my best. Profus has been banished, but the Sea of Chaos is always there. I've seen it with my own eyes. Its forces will always try to erode Ma'at. We can't think that all our enemies are gone. The crowd stirred nervously. But for now, I added, we are at peace. We can rebuild and expand the House of Life. If war comes again, I'll be here as the Eye of Horus and as Pharaoh. But as Carter Kane, I rose and placed the crook and flail on the throne. I stepped down from the dais. As Carter Kane, I'm a kid who has a lot of catching up to do. I've got my own gnome to run at Brooklyn House. I've got to graduate from high school, so I'm going to leave the day-to-day operations and where they should be. In the hands of the chief lector, steward of the pharaoh, Amos Kane. Amos bowed to me, for it felt a little strange. The crowd applauded wildly. I wasn't sure if they approved of me, or if they were just relieved that a kid wasn't going to be giving them daily orders from the throne. Either way, I was okay with it. Amos embraced Sadie and me again. I'm both proud of you. I'm proud of you both, he said. We'll speak soon, but right now, come. He gestured to the side of the dais where a door of darkness had opened in the air. Your parents would like to see you. Sadie looked at me nervously. Uh-oh, I nodded. Strange how I went instantly from the pharaoh of the universe to a kid worried about getting grounded. As much as I wanted to see my parents, I'd broken an important promise to my father. I lost track of a dangerous prisoner.
Everything that I touch is out. Wow.
Wait.
All types. One day soon, the sun will set in my time here. I'm on the rise with you. As you.
The Hall of Judgment had turned into Party Central. Ahmet the Devourer ran around the scales of justice, yapping excitedly with a birthday hat on the crocodile head. The guillotine-headed magician demons lounged on their pole arms, holding glasses of what looked like champagne. I didn't know how they could drink with those guillotine hands, but I didn't want to find out. Even the blue judgment god, the Cerber, seemed to be in a good mood. His Cleopatra wig was all sideways on his head. His long scroll had unraveled halfway across the room, but he was laughing and talking with the other judgment gods who had been rescued from the House of Rest. Fire Embracer and the Hotfoot kept dropping cinders on his papyrus, but the Cerber didn't seem to notice or care. At the far end of the room, Dad sat on his throne, holding hands with our ghostly mom. To the left of the dais, spirits from the underworld played in a jazz ensemble. I was pretty sure I recognized Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and a few other of my dad's favorites. Being the god of the underworld has its perks. Dad beckoned us forward. He didn't look mad, which was a good sign. We made our way through the crowd of happy demons and judgment gods. Emmett yapped at Sadie and purred as she scratched under his chin. Children, Dad held one of his arms. It felt strange being called children. I didn't feel like a child anymore. Children weren't asked to fight the chaos serpents. They didn't need armies to stop the end of the world. Sadie and I both hugged our dad. I couldn't hug Mom, of course, since she was a ghost. I was happy enough to see her safe, except for the glowing aura around her. She looked just like she did when she was alive, dressed in jeans and her Ankh t-shirt, her blonde hair gathered back in a bandana. If I didn't look directly at her, I could have almost mistaken her for Sadie. Mom, think you survived, I said. How? Oh, thanks to you two. Mom's eyes sparkled. I held on as long as I could, but the shadow was too powerful. I was consumed, along with so many other spirits. You hadn't destroyed the shade when you did and released us. I would have been... Well, it doesn't matter now. You've done the impossible. We are so proud. Yes, Dad agreed, squeezing my shoulder. Everything we've worked for, everything we've hoped for, you have accomplished. It exceeded my highest expectations. I hesitated. Everything we've done. I hesitated. Was it possible he didn't know about Sydney? Dad, I said, we didn't succeed at everything. We lost your prisoner. I still don't understand how he escaped. He was tied up and Dad raised his hand to stop me. I heard. You may never know how Sydney escaped exactly, but you can't blame yourselves. You can't? Sadie asked. Sydney has evaded capture for eons, Dad said. He's outwitted gods, magicians, mortals, and demons. I let you take him. I suspected he would find a way to escape. I just hoped you could control him long enough to get his help. And you did. He got us through the shadow, I admit, but he also stole the Book of Toast. Sadie bit her lip. Dangerous stuff, that book. Sydney may not be able to cast all the spells himself, being a ghost, but he could still cause all sorts of mischief. You go find him again, Dad promised, but for now, let's celebrate your victory. Our mom reached out and brushed her ghostly hand through Sadie's hair. May I bother you for a moment, my dear? I have something I'd like to discuss with you. I wasn't sure what that was about, but Sadie followed our mom toward the jazz band. I hadn't noticed before, but the two of our ghostly musicians looked very familiar, rather out of place. A big red-headed man in Western clothes sat at a steel guitar, grinning and tapping his boots as he traded solos with Miles Davis. Next to him, a pretty blonde woman who played the fiddle. Aww! Leaning down from time to time to kiss the red-headed man on the forehead. J.D. Grissom and his wife Anne from the Dallas Museum had finally found a party that didn't have to end. I never heard a steel guitar in the middle with a fiddle with a jazz band before. Somehow they made it work. I suppose Amos was right. Music and magic both needed a little chaos within the order. As Mom and Sadie talked, Sadie's eyes widened. Her expression turned serious. Then she smiled shyly and blushed, which wasn't like Sadie at all. Carter, my dad said. You did well in the Hall of Ages. You will make a good leader, a wise leader. I wasn't sure how he knew about my speech. A lump formed in my throat. My dad doesn't hand out compliments lightly. Being with him again, I remembered how much easier life had been. Traveling with him, he'd always known what to do. I could always count on his calming presence. Until that Christmas Eve in London when he had disappeared, I hadn't appreciated just how much I had relied on him. I know it's hard, Dad said, but you will lead the Kane family into the future. You have truly stepped out of my shadow. Not completely, I said. I wouldn't want that. As dads go, you're pretty shadowy. She laughed. I'll be here if you need me. Never doubt that. But never doubt that. But as Ra said, the gods will have a harder time contacting the mortal world now that Apophis has been executed. As chaos retreats, so must Ma'at. Nevertheless, I don't think you'll need much help. You succeeded on owning on your own strength. Now you are the one casting the long shadow. The loss of life will remember you for ages to come. He hugged me once more. It was easy to forget that he was the god of the dead. He just seemed like my dad, warm and alive and strong. Sadie came over, looking a little shaken. What, I asked. She giggled for no apparent reason, then got serious again. Nothing. Mom just was next to her. Off you go, you two. Brooklyn House is waiting. Another door of darkness appeared by the throne. Sadie and I stepped through. For once, I wasn't worried about what waited on the other side. I knew we were going home. Life got back to normal with surprising speed. I'll let Sadie tell you about the events at Brooklyn House and her own drama. I'll fast forward to the interesting stuff. Ouch! I thought we agreed. No pinching! 2 weeks after the battle with Apophis, Zia and I were sitting in the food court at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. Why there? I'd heard the Mall of America was the biggest in the country, and I figured we'd start big. It was an easy trip through the Duat. Freak was happy to sit on the roof and eat frozen turkeys while Zia and I explored the mall. That's right, Sadie. For our first real date, I picked up Zia in a boat dragged by a deranged griffin. So what? Like your dates aren't weird? Zia, when we got to the food court, Zia's jaws dropped. Gods of Egypt. The restaurant choices were pretty overwhelming since we couldn't decide. We got a little of everything. Chinese, Mexican, the macho nachos, pizza, and ice cream at the 4 basic food groups. We grabbed the table overlooking the amusement park at the center of the mall. A lot of other kids were hanging out in the food court. Many of them stared at us. Well, not at me. They were mostly looking at Zia and no doubt wondering what a girl like her was doing with a guy like me. She'd healed up nicely since the battle. She wore a simple sleeveless dress of beige linen and black sandals. No makeup, no jewelry except for a gold scarab necklace. She looked way more glamorous and mature than the other girls in the mall. Her long black hair was tied up back in a ponytail, except for a little strand that curled behind her right ear. She'd always had luminous amber eyes and warm coffee and milk skin, but since roasting raw, she seemed to glow even more. I could feel her warmth from across the table. She smiled at me over her bowl of chow mein. So, this is what typical American teenagers do? Well, sort of, I said. Though I don't think either of us will ever pass as typical. I hope not. I had trouble thinking straight when I looked at her. If she'd asked me to jump over the railing, I probably would have done it. Zia twirled her fork around it with her nails. Carter, you have never talked much about, my being the Eye of Ra. I can guess how strange that was for you. See, just your typical teenage conversation in the mall. Hey, I understand, I said. It wasn't strange. She raised an eyebrow. Okay, it was strange, I admitted. But Ron needed your help. You were amazing. Have you, talked to him since? Zia shook her head. He's retreated from the world just like he said. I doubt I'll be the Eye of Ra again unless we face another doomsday. So with our luck, not for a few more weeks, you mean? Thea's laugh. I loved her laugh. I love that little curl of hair behind her ear. Sadie says I'm being ridiculous, like she's the one to talk. Had a meeting with your Uncle Amos, Thea said. He has lots of help at the First Gnome now. He thought it would be good for me to spend more time away, to live a more typical life. My heart tripped and stumbled straight into my ribs. You mean like leave Egypt? Thea nodded. Your sister suggested I stay at Brooklyn House, attend American school. She says, how did she put it? Americans are an odd bunch. They grow on you. Thea scooted around the table and took my hand. I sensed about 20 jealous guys glaring at me from the other tables of the food court. Would you mind if I stayed in Brooklyn House? I could teach you, help someone teach you initiates, but if that would make you uncomfortable. No! I said much too loudly. I mean, no, I don't mind. Yes, I'd like that. A lot, quite a bit. Totally fine. Thea smiled. The temperature in the food court seemed to go up another 10 degrees. So that's a yes? Yes. I mean, unless it would make you uncomfortable. I wouldn't want to make things awkward or... Carter, she said gently. Shut up. She leaned over and kissed me. I did as she commanded. No magic necessary. I shut up. Well, I'm not sure if I can finish it now. The sun's going down. But I did my best.